we're saying goodbye to a legend of the game. So Pop is decided to step down, but not completely. It's a step down and then a level up, similar to what we saw from Brad Stevens a few years ago. So Pop stepped down as head coach effective immediately, and will become the team's president or president of basketball ops as of next year.
Wouldn't that be a promotion?
Yes.
Yeah, it would.
So he didn't really step down.
He stepped down as the coach, but then they elevated him to president of basketball operations.
Yeah. So Mitch Johnson, who coached every game, which was 77 this past season, Pop only coached 5. He's now the new serving head coach for the future. Pop is 76 years old.
Wow.
He had a stroke on a team's arena on November 2nd, which was 4 or 5 months ago. Of course, Pop led the Spurs to 5 NBA championships. He's the league's all-time wins leader and is inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame. We all know that. Are you ready for these stats? Well, it's two stats. So he has 1,422 wins, 869 losses. That's his final tally. He has 170 playoff game wins, and it's the most by any coach with any team, and third most behind Phil Jackson's 229 and Pat Riley's 171. So he was just too shy from breaking Pat Riley's record and being behind Phil Jackson. But, that's it. Pop. I know there was a press conference today.
There was.
With Tim Duncan and Manu helping Pop up to the podium. And they called him El Jefe. It's on the back of his shirt, his jacket.
His tattoo.
That's his
I'm
tattoo.
just kidding.
No,
I don't know.
No, he had like a jacket on.
Yeah, he had a
took
jacket.
it off. He's like, I'm no longer coach. El Jefe.
But Pop at 76, he's getting up there, but he's going to be team president now. So
He's the boss, man. And, one of the greatest coaches, if not the greatest coach to ever grace the NBA. Done so much, elevated so many guys' careers, and one of the most likable figures, I would say, in NBA history.
yeah, I guess Pop was the only one that of course we remember all the Pop interviews when people would ask him questions and he would only give one answer questions and then just leave.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you remember when Craig Sager was still around and he interviewed Pop. Pop would always stick around for him and actually would talk like 3 or 4 minutes to Craig Sager. Did when he was on TNT about like how the team was doing.
Yeah.
Because they had a close relationship. But Pop's just a character.
He really is.
He says that's literally what it comes down to.
Yeah, he's a good man. And, it's going to really stink not seeing him on the sidelines anymore at games. Obviously, he'll still be around the Spurs organization, everything like that. But, it's good to see him Pop kind of run his schemes and, talk in the press conferences afterwards, whether it's a lot of words or a little. And, this is just the new era, the next chapter in San Antonio. You're moving on from the Popovich era. And, I'm surprised they went with Mitch Johnson considering some of the other candidates that were out there.
Yes, because once I saw that, I was like, oh, that's a big jump to take. And then right away, Mitch Johnson, I'm like, all right, I guess they already had everything set in place.
Yeah, I guess there's no need to, because if Pop's staying around in the organization, he trusts Mitch Johnson as his assistant. Why not give him the chance rather than going with a head coach like Michael Malone or Taylor Jenkins that were just fired for not essentially doing their job?
Yeah, I mean, don't forget, Mitch did a pretty decent job until Wemby got injured.
Yeah, the Spurs were like hovering around a play-in spot. They didn't really get in, but they were always kind of knocking at the door, really giving teams like Dallas and Phoenix little bits of problems here and there.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see next year what happens with this roster, the way this team's going to function, whether Chris Paul's there or not. Because obviously Wemby will be back. Stephon Castle's going into year 2. They're going to have 2 lottery picks this year. Wow. So anything can really happen with this roster. What are you thinking about this, Gio?
I mean, I'm thinking about Pop right now. I'm thinking I'm going into history. I'm thinking what is it about Pop that made him so good? Is it just his scheming as a coach, or is it the culture that he brought to the Spurs organization, or is it just luck of the draw? He got Tim Duncan and David Robinson and Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili, all these legends. What is it about him that makes him great?
I think it's both, essentially, because the lottery, luck, whether it was by chance or if David Stern or Adam Silver rigged it, I'm not going to make that accusation, but it helps when you have those guys, especially when you get Wemby coming in. But I think what makes Pop special is that not only the culture that was built in San Antonio, But I think the tree of coaches and general managers that have kind of spewed from R.C. Buford and Pop, and obviously, so like there were so many different coaches. Like Ime Udoka, for example, is one of the best coaches in the league. He came from the Pop system, and that trickles down to other guys. Like Ime Udoka had Will Hardy on his staff in Boston, and Will Hardy just signed an extension with Utah, and he's one of the most underrated coaches in the league. And that all stems from the top. It stems from Popovich. And to me, that's super important that not only were you great in your own regard, but you were sort of a pioneer to the game for not only players, but for coaches and for front office staff.
Legendary. He's a grandfather of coaches.
He really is.
That's how you know. Because then you go from Pop to Ime Udoka. I'm not saying he passed the torch to Ime. It could have been a bunch of other coaches in the coaching tree of Pop, right?
Yes.
But then you get Ime, and then you get Will Hardy. Like, that's a third generation or a second generation. Like, that's a grandfather right there of coaching, literally and figuratively.
Figuratively, yeah, it's pretty much what it is.
Yeah.
And we obviously all wish Pop the absolute best in the next chapter. I'm really excited to see Pop as a GM now, seeing what he's going to be able to do. His negotiating skills. What are they going to be like? What trades is he going to make?
Right. I want to see how active he still is into it, because obviously he's getting older.
Right.
So I want to see if he's still locked in 100% into doing his job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
I'm sure
I expect him to be, because he's Gregg Popovich, but age is undefeated so far.
Exactly.
So we'll see though.
According to himself, he's as of right now he's in good health. We'll knock on wood. Yeah.
Good.
So obviously he had a couple medical emergencies after the stroke. I think he got rushed to the hospital a few weeks ago or a month ago, something of that nature. Yeah. So, definitely scary times. Thankfully, he managed to pull through. And
now, what do you think about? I'm sorry. What do you think about the team now with the new coach in there? What's his name again?
Mitch Johnson, right?
Mitch Johnson.
Mitch Johnson. Do
you think he's a good successor of Gregg Popovich? Do you think he will be able to carry, the culture forward of the Spurs organization?
What do you answer that?
I mean, to be honest, I didn't even know who was coaching the Spurs once Pop left, because we were paying attention, but we were more concerned about Pop at that current moment in time, and Wemby.
Yeah.
But he did great. Once they got Fox, of course, it was a short time with him and Wemby together. They probably would have gotten that 10th play-in spot, if I'm being honest with you guys. They probably would have been really close to it, or if not, just missed out or gotten it. But next year we'll see who they bring in. I don't know who the free agents are they could bring back or let go. Of course, who the lottery picks they get.
Right.
And who Pop chooses for those 2 picks as well. And then just move on from there. And it seems that Mitch Johnson could be a younger coach for the younger guys, Wemby, Castle, 2 guys coming in, and then just move forward from there.
The future's bright.
It is.
Oh, absolutely.
For the Spurs, so.
Yeah, they're going to be one of the massive dynasty contenders in the 2030s. Even at the end of this decade, they can make some noise once. Wemby's still a good 5 years away from his prime. Yeah. So we'll have to see what they do. So
he's also 10 inches taller than Tim Duncan. Did you see that?
Yeah.
It looked, the height comparison.
It's crazy.
Insane.
Yeah.
So, anyways.
He towers over. He's really 7'5". I don't know why they measure him at 7'3", but
crazy.
It makes honestly no sense. It's quite insane. But congratulations to Popovich on a wonderful coaching career. We wish him the absolute best going forward.
Yeah.
So now let's get into the next story upon the coaches. Antoine, what do we got for it?
Well, we're going to touch on the Grizzlies later in our playoff team segment, but earlier last week, I think it was either Tuesday or Wednesday, the Kings elevated interim head coach Doug Christie to now full-time acting head coach, and they're sticking with him. I guess they saw a good Kings team once he came in. I don't know what kind of eyes they have, but clearly they saw something. But Monty McNair stepped down, so I wonder who made that move to keep him around.
Well, remember they have Scott Perry as the
the Scott
GM.
Perry, yes. Yeah. I keep forgetting about that. But Kings are just, I guess, a never-ending just loop of
mid,
exactly. Because they didn't even have a coaching search. They just stuck with. I guess they have the trust in this guy.
I mean, I'll tell you,
or they have a good friendship.
Yeah, I'll tell you what it is. It's this here because the Nets did this with Jacques Vaughn, right? Mm-hmm. You have a team that has championship aspirations, but let's be honest, they're nowhere near. Mm-hmm. You fall flat on your face. This team is just so mid. You're the epitome of mid. You barely have draft capital. So you just make the lateral pivot that doesn't really move the needle at all. So, I'm not really surprised by this. I doubt Doug Christie has his job past Valentine's Day next year.
Wow.
So we'll just,
Yeah.
it just is what it is. The Kings are going to king. I thought they finally were able to kind of pick themselves back up. You had a promising backcourt combo of Fox and Halliburton, then you trade Halliburton for Sabonis. It worked for 1 year, and then
I was looking forward to the coaching search because, I like the names that, come in for interviews. We're like, ooh, that's someone that could be good. Ooh, I know the Pelicans already have names for their head coaches. Not Pelican. Was it Pelicans?
no, they still have Willie Green.
No, who was I saying? Who was it? I forgot. It'll come back to me.
Probably Phoenix.
I don't know. But something with James Borrego and someone else. But, just hiring the interim guy, we'll get into Memphis later,
Right.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like you're half-assing it a little bit.
And that's what the Kings do. That's their bread and butter is being embarrassing. And, it's just unfortunate. The Kings didn't, they got the 3rd seed. They overachieved. They lose to the Warriors in 7 games. They didn't do anything. They literally did nothing that offseason. The roster staled out. The rest of the West got way better because that was the last year the East was good, was 2023. Because I'm pretty sure Philly...
The East is good this year.
Well, it's good this year, but in 2023, Philly, Boston, and was Milwaukee the 1 seed that year? They all had better records than the entire Western Conference.
Yeah.
So
I will say, I'll leave San Antonio out of this because I feel like Mitch Johnson is that guy. But, with Sacramento and Memphis, Michael Malone, Mike Brown, you're telling me these guys are better than those two guys? Well, the Kings can be Mike Brown, but Michael Malone for Sacramento or Malone or Brown for Memphis.
Michael Malone already coached and got fired by Sacramento, so he wasn't going to go back.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there's so many good assistant coaches that are out there, like Sam Cassell, for example.
Yeah.
How does he still not have a
We
job?
always talk about him.
Obviously David Adelman's another name that Denver's probably going to wind up elevating by the end of the season. But there's a lot of good options throughout. Even Royal Ivy on Houston's staff with Ime Udoka. There's good options for assistant coaches to get full-time jobs. It's just no one's doing it right now because they trust their assistant coach, and they feel like that's what'll solve the issue.
Yeah, the lead assistant on the previously fired head coach. That's pretty much what it's.
And that's the other thing, and that's the other problem too, is that Sacramento had a great assistant coach. Rather than extending Mike Brown, you let him walk to Brooklyn.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Jordy should have been the guy there.
He should have been. We should not have Jordy Fernandez right now.
But
God
you're happy.
bless that we do. God bless
Jordy,
brother man.
Jordy is, I think, the guy for Brooklyn, and
He's a good coach.
He's the Spanish Spo.
yeah,
I'm telling you, he's going to be good going forward.
Yeah, I have no doubts with Jordy at all.
Yeah,